You know what they say. Either you die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain. Some people just die a villain.
That's a lot of nuts!
Today's story pertains to YouTuber, Twitch streamer, viral meme content creator Twomad, real name this, I'm not going to try to pronounce it, who reported by TMZ was found deceased in his LA home after a wellness check by local police. Apparently they found some sort of drug paraphernalia. The details are slim at the moment that I'm recording this, but to the consensus of most people who have the facts that have been given to us so far, it seems like some sort of self-inflicted overdose that led to his death at this point. Who is Twomad? So Twomad started making content on YouTube, making edits of Rainbow Six Siege and most notably Overwatch, the hyper-edited, ADHD-fueled, super meme, fast-cut editing style that you might be familiar with a lot of gameplay Twitch highlights, was really sort of frontiered by him. He's the one who really brought that to light, the zoomer editing, as some on the internet have called. But it wasn't until one viral meme that he recorded just while grinding out content one day did he really catapult himself into superstardom. You may know it as the Goodnight Girl meme.
Oh, hey, I'm just about to go to bed. I know we couldn't Skype tonight, but that's alright. Good night, girl. I'll see you tomorrow.
Most of the information that I'm getting about Twomad's rise in popularity is from an interview that he did with Cold Ones, in which he explained most of this in his own words. And it's a video that I've watched several dozen times over, just sort of ADHD rewatching while I'm playing League of Legends or whatever. You know, it's like a 2-hour-long interview. He would continue to churn out content on the internet, both live streaming, doing IRL content, continuing to do these hyper-edited gameplay highlights. And it was really something that I think me and a lot of other people at the time, because this is when I was starting my YouTube career as well, really looked up to, because he was churning out a tremendous amount of content, even though many people may just know him from the one animated gif of fat black guy falling over, as most people have searched into YouTube to find. The fact that he was like 20 years old at this point, using the momentum that he had on the internet to churn out content, getting banned on Twitch, still uploading to like 3 separate YouTube channels, doing these interviews, collaborating with other people. You know, anybody who puts out a ton of videos and gets a ton of views on YouTube, like, it's not easy to get a lot of views here on YouTube. So anybody who's doing it successfully in a way that's funny, well edited, relatively difficult to recreate, and therefore feels like quality is, you know, a rarity. Twomad passed away at age 23. You can tell from some of these interviews and memes being from 4, 5, 6 years ago at this point. Means that he had a tremendous amount of online notoriety. He was very popular, had millions of subscribers across all of his platforms at age like 17, 19 maybe. So, you know, he was quite young and quite immature in the way that he made his content and the comedy in which he saturated himself in. You can see even in the Cold Ones video, he's always very jumpy. He says whatever's on his mind. They talk about a lot of situations where, you know, he's just a little bit, I don't know, like, I don't want to call it autism or like ADHD or whatever, but some level of like not being fully socially there, always being a little bit just say whatever's on your mind. And you can see that in his comedy and the way that he edits. He doesn't shy away from saying words that might get other people canceled. He doesn't shy away from doing accents that some people might find insensitive. That's just, he's just a, you know, like a young internet comedian sort of dude. And that's what people loved him for. You can see this comedy and hyper eccentric sort of content that he makes on full display in what I think would be the next giant thing that sort of garnered the internet, honestly, the nation's attention, and that was the Zoom bombing epidemic. When COVID was at its height, obviously a lot of people weren't meeting in real life, and so Zoom, basically video calling, Discord, Skype, if you guys aren't familiar, started to become a popular platform for people to do like online classes, board meetings, like meetings where people would meet up in a room were no longer a thing with COVID. So they would all do it virtually, but because of some sort of security oversight or just Twomad doing his diligence and getting the passwords for these chat rooms, he made videos that would garner national news coverage of him just logging into random people's online classes or directors' board meetings, shirtless, doing African accents, or dressed like a Chinese dude, doing fake Chinese impressions, just ruining people's Zoom things. It was a mess. Like, he was interviewed by the news. He was interviewed by like CNN, I think. Like, it was a tremendous thing. Everybody knew who Twomad was at this point. He had superseded internet stardom at this point and was a proper, I don't want to call it like a celebrity, but he was all anybody was talking about for a couple of weeks.
Oh no. Oh, no.
You don't know who Joe is? No. Joe Mama! What is this class
Okay,
about?
let's let some people get signed in. You guys
said Spanish, right? Hey, Google.
with yourself.
please.
The last super viral meme that I think Twomad was a part of before his downfall, if we want to call it that kind of video, was his photo shoot with internet megastar Belle Delphine, who herself had been on quite a bit of a hiatus, and then after like a year or so of just being nowhere and then showing back up on the internet and making content again, released a photo shoot with Twomad where they were both dressed up in costumes, licking toes and touching on each other. To my knowledge, there wasn't any actual sex going on between the two. They didn't release a tape, so to speak, but my subscription to her OnlyFans ran out like a year ago, so, you know, take that with a grain of salt. So Twomad was a man of many memes. He brought a lot of people joy. He made damn good content for the stuff that he did. He made international news with his trolling on the internet. How many content creators can you say that about? The dude had a lot going for him. So why, after passing away at age 23, is Twitter celebrating? Twomad? Dead? Too bad it wasn't sooner. Passed out while playing Overwatch 2? Yeah, he deserved to be 6 feet under. These seem like terrible comments by people celebrating the death of a young man. What happened? There seems to be quite a few stories coming out with content creators and YouTubers and other individuals who had interacted with Twomad either in real life at conventions or even through direct messages that also sort of shine a negative light on his existence and the way that he talked and interacted with people. I can't speak to all of that, obviously, because it's sort of coming out as I'm recording this, but keep in mind that exists. What I can speak to is the stuff that he faced backlash for publicly, and really like the big thing that has people upset with Twomad, generally speaking. So in June of last year, so like 6, 7, 8 months ago at this point, Twomad was just tweeting on Twitter, as he does hundreds of times a day. One individual said that he had no bitches, to which he responded, "Yes, I do. Here's a picture of my girlfriend." Seemingly, according to him, this was a random picture of a girl that he thought looked hot and so would throw out as a meme. Unfortunately, this is an image of Brianna Gray, a teenager in England who was stabbed to death seemingly because she was trans. It was a major news headline and seems like a weird choice of picture to randomly throw out as your fake online girlfriend. Even more so, a really, really silly picture to use and then try and say that you have no idea who this is. You just randomly stumbled upon this picture with no context and thought she looked hot. Twomad proceeds to double down on the fact that he shouldn't be getting backlash for this. Not even that like it was a bad joke or anything, although he does sort of admit, oh, I had no idea. But really nobody's buying this. This was like national news. This teenager was stabbed to death because she was trans. It was all anybody was talking about. It's hard to believe that Twomad would just randomly save this photo of this deceased 16-year-old because he thought she looked hot to his phone, and then posted on Twitter having never gotten the context of it. And then when confronted about the fact that he made this psycho-ass post, double down on the idea that, guys, it was an honest mistake. There is totally a chance that I had no idea who this is, and I just posted it as a meme. You can't be mad at me about that. However, obviously, people were upset about this. The next day, Twitter user Goldie Bell would post a Discord screenshot of a conversation she had with Twomad several years ago, in which he made similar disparaging or disregarding comments about a different 17-year-old who was stabbed to death in New York, in order to showcase that, seemingly disturbed that he would bring up Brianna Gray's death at this point and then act like it was no big deal, that he made these jokes all the time. At least several years ago, he was making equivalently horrible jokes about a different teenager who was murdered in order to paint this idea that Twomad was not above making these sorts of jokes. She would then proceed to post several other posts about the comments that Twomad had made to her, including facts that he had tried to sexually assault her, that he had continually tried to harass her through Discord messages, that he had like 6 or 7 burner phone numbers that he would continue to message and stalk her with. Goldie Bell would also upload a picture of a contract that was seemingly written up and signed by Twomad, in which he outlined a series of guidelines that he would try to adhere to, including not harassing, initiating any sort of sexual advances, leaving a safe word in which she could use at any point that Twomad would have to step back and think about what he's doing that's making her uncomfortable, in an effort to try and continue to have communication with this girl that clearly is trying to make distance between them because of his behaviors. Goldie Bell would also post to her Twitter a now infamous video of Twomad recording himself while driving in Oregon, in which he starts the video by saying, "I'm literally driving, I'm in Oregon right now," before going on to apologize and admit to sexual assaults, coercing sexual favors, being abusive in one way or another towards Goldie Bell. So like, this has now gone from a random on Twitter, seemingly, making accusations about a big YouTuber doing something bad through DMs and what have you, to pretty legitimate proof. Anybody, it happens quite often that somebody will say something with no evidence, but now this is literally Twomad on video in his own words admitting to being manipulative and abusive to somebody who I can't confirm if she was underage and if this is the reason that people are upset at him about doing something with an underage individual. But that's also going on. Twomad would react to this series of tweets about as poorly as you possibly could by saying that these allegations mean nothing, denying some of it while not denying other parts, saying that the video in which he recorded his apology, he was reading off a script, a sticky note that he had on his windshield that was written by somebody else just to get back into the good graces of this girl that he doesn't deny he was stalking for the better part of 6 or 7 months. He would tweet, I'm not joking, he would tweet like 1,000 times in the next 24 hours. Just spewing nonsense, just spamming the words that he sent that Goldie Bell had received in her text messages, just live on Twitter over and over again, changing his profile picture to "Call Me Carson," continually tweeting out that he's literally driving, that he's in Oregon, seemingly mocking all of these things that were a part of these allegations against him, which were all, in reality, like legitimate claims. He actually messed up and was a bad dude to this individual, but rather than owning it or apologizing, he seemingly, either due to immaturity or it was at this point that people started to speculate that this was some sort of psychotic break, that there was some sort of medication or something that he should have been taking, that he clearly was having relapse symptoms or psychotic breaking symptoms from. He was having what everybody could tell was some sort of manic episode. He would go live on Twitch telling people to come and watch him play Overwatch, where he would play and I was in this live stream. I was watching this dude just say over and over again that these allegations are nothing, that this happens in every relationship, that she's lying, that it wasn't that serious. I watched countless content creators jump into his Twitch chat and go, "Twomad, get off the internet, respond to my text messages. You need to stop tweeting and being live and talking about the situation at the very least. And at best, you need help in one way or another. Talk to me." And he would just continually go, "Nope, I'm not saying anything. I'm not giving my side of the story. I'm not corroborating. I'm not denying," although he would do both of those things over the course of time. It was a mess, bro. Everybody was pretty worried about Twomad at this point because it went from the situation where it seemed like he was freaking out because, he was getting canceled or whatever. Like, dark parts of his past were now being brought to life because of his edginess online. But the way that he was handling it, tweeting like 60 times a minute, just all of these things, being live on Twitch, talking to people about the situation, and just gloating that there were 600, 1,000 people watching him on Twitch when there were never this many people watching him before, acknowledging that he appreciates having this much attention despite the fact that it is all due to the conversation that's going on about him being an abuser and a manipulator in one way or another, looked bad. And like I said, countless people reached out to this dude. People were tweeting at him, people were in his Twitch chat, people were telling him to get off the internet or at least respond to some messages, like let people know that you're okay or something. And he just wasn't giving anybody anything for like the better part of a couple days. He would eventually start talking to some people on some podcasts and open up about the situation. He wasn't any less dismissive about what he did or how he went down. He would claim that Goldie Bell was just somebody that he paid for sex, and then she backed out of it last minute, or he backed out of it last minute, and that's what she's claiming was him forcing himself upon her, and that it was all bullshit in one way or another. Overall consensus, most people agree that Twomad was just trying to cover up for something bad that he did. Nobody's under the impression that there's any real gray area here. It's just a situation that he handled super poorly, and this is the major thing that has people looking down on Twomad. This is the major thing that people don't like him for. News breaks out on Twitter by TMZ, major news networks, that Twomad has passed away, seemingly from an overdose, although again, the details are still a little gray. You will probably know better than I do by the end of this day, because again, this is like 12 hours ago. YouTuber Jamesky, who Twomad did have some sort of drama with like 4 or 5 years ago, from the details that I can pick the pieces out of now, it seemed like a big deal that these guys had beef, but for whatever reason, everything's been deleted and I can't really pick up on what it is. But Jamesky, this YouTuber, tweets out the wall of text that you see behind me, saying that he can now finally say, with either confidence or without worry of any retaliation or backlash, that Twomad was a terrible person, specifically calling him a rapist, a pedophile, and outlining the fact that he tried to kill Jamesky, murder, right? Not a video game, on several occasions, that he was fearing for his life, that he had to hide out in hotel rooms, and there's a lot of controversy around this tweet right now. A number of people obviously find it a bit distasteful. You know, I've done an okay job putting together all the facts of everything to paint an okay picture of the well-rounded Twomad that you should know of now. But a lot of people online, again, only really know Twomad from the meme, or only really know Twomad from what felt like a manic episode overreacting to, you know, allegations levied against him. But to call him a rapist or a pedophile or a murderer to a lot of people was completely brand new news, and it felt a little bit ill-timed to post this literally hours after news broke out that he had passed away. I felt the same way. I learned about Twomad's passing minutes before bumping into this wall of text by Jamesky, and my initial reaction was also, you know, similar. Like, bro, the dude just died. 23 years old, like whatever beef you have, like you couldn't wait a little bit? And it was after scrolling a bit and seeing the sheer number of people making jokes about Twomad passing away that I realized that I must be missing something. And reading through reading through the comments under this post that Jamesky made paints a much darker picture of Twomad, because not only is it corroborated by numerous people that Jamesky was very much fearing for his life due to what he felt were legitimate threats against his life, that he was absolutely soliciting pictures from a 13-year-old who was in a psych ward. There were also a tremendous amount of creators in the comments and quote retweeting this tweet, sharing their own experiences, their own private DMs with Twomad, and they're all just as bad as all the ones that I've shown you earlier in this video. There are multiple female content creators who have spam messages of Twomad specifically saying that he wanted to sexually assault, rape, underage. Like, he's using all the worst keywords. Like, it almost feels like a joke. Like, he's trying to make this big video where I tricked people into trying to cancel me, but like, there was no joke. This was from all the recollections of everybody saying what he was like when they met him and how he talked and how he DM'd with people. This was what Twomad was like behind the scenes, and it shows that there is at least 3 or 4 content creators that I follow on Twitter that have had interactions with Twomad that have been very similar to the ones that Goldie Bell had posted earlier. And he behaved similarly in DMs, soliciting sex, making jokes about rape, not making jokes about rape, like actually saying that he wanted to do that to people. Multiple accusations. Knowing that and seeing that afterwards, I can see why somebody would make a post like this in order to outline just how bad Twomad was. I do see quite a few people taking a look at this post and still going, why are you bringing this up now? Like, why couldn't you wait an hour? Why couldn't you wait a day? Why does it feel like you need to capitalize on the fact that this dude passed away to share all this information? And the reality is that, like, maybe he didn't need to tweet that out right then, but the tweet outlines that he's been working with law enforcement to try and keep Twomad and the people around him safe, that he had been abusing drugs, that he had been trying to murder people, driving on the highway recklessly, and it felt like you know, you can't get mad at people for like making these allegations that we see on Twitter and on the internet all the time. You know, all of us want to be like, listen, if it's really that serious, don't make a cancellation post. Go to the police. Well, that's what Jamesky did. He was working with law enforcement. He was trying to get the situation sorted, fearing for his own life, and trying to keep Twomad from doing any more damage than he had already done. And this post was just sort of, I mean, I still feel like you could have waited a little bit, but like, you know, I guess it's justified. The situation's gray and the waters are murky. It depends on who you talk to. It's very clear that Twomad was a disturbed individual in one way or another. I don't know to what extent that is because of like mental illnesses or manic episodes, a lack of help and mental stability, or a lack of medication. It's clear that something was wrong with Twomad, and being so young, like I see the memes, like I see people making fun of it, and I understand that it's like therapeutic for these people who were like fearing for their safety when they knew that Twomad was in the room or at a convention, or the DMs that they would get, the harassment that they would get. I get that it's like therapeutic to be able to see that this big orb of darkness is now out of your life, and it must be therapeutic to be able to make jokes about it or feel relief now that you don't need to worry about that. But even the people who knew Twomad to any extent, I didn't know the dude at all, but the people who had met him, the people who had interacted with him, even the ones who had gotten similar harassment or spam emails, stalking behaviors, people who were on the worst side of Twomad still find it difficult to just be celebrating his death, because it feels like everybody sort of recognizes that there was a failure in getting this dude the help that he needed, whether it was medication or just like somebody to teach him the correct way to interact with people, and that what he was doing was hurting them. Did he know? Did he not know? Should he have been on medication? Did he have mental issues? Like, there's a lot of questions up in the air that sort of make it bring down to, here's a post that was just made by Goldie Bell, the original girl who posted and started this whole situation and his downfall. And, you know, it sort of summarizes how everybody's feeling. It's bittersweet, because it's like, you want to be mad at the dude because he was a he did some terrible things, but he was so young and he was so creative that it, you know, everybody's just sort of wondering, like, could there have been help? Could there have been something that could have made him better? Was there a different path that he could have gone on? I don't blame anybody who's making jokes about his death. I know that trauma is something that people deal with in different ways, and if that's the way that it makes you feel better about the situation, do what you got to do. You know what I mean? It's like I said, the cause of death on him is supposedly overdose from drugs, because they found paraphernalia in his room, but I don't know if that means he had a bong or if that means he had a ton of oxy and he was planning on shoving a bunch in his mouth and go driving on the wrong end of the freeway, the way that Jamesky says he had done in the past and was intending to do in the future. It's totally possible that Twomad was going to do something crazy, and him passing away in the way that he did was the best situation that could have come from the path that he was already on. But like I said, I don't know, man. 23 years old, that's a tough one. That's a tough one. If you guys have more information about the situation, or if you want to discuss it, obviously the comments are down there. This video has taken me like 8 hours to record. My hands have been shaking the entire time just thinking about everything that's been going on, and it has been completely bumming me out. You know, you get into YouTube thinking you're just going to make videos about memes and laugh all the time, and then shit like this happens, and then you realize the gravity of the job that you have, and I feel, I don't know how I feel. I feel numb. I feel empty. I don't know anymore, man. Thank you for making it to the end of the video. Subscribe if you want to see more. Hopefully the next one isn't anywhere near as heavy as this one, and I'll catch you guys there, yeah? Peace.